Hello everyone, and welcome to our SAP Tech Talks webinar. Just a bit of housekeeping before we jump in. This webinar is going to be recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. If you've got any questions as we go through the talk, then please pop them in the chats and we'll pick them up at the end of this session. And now let's meet our today's speaker. We're joined by Egor Pozniakov, and the topic of his talk is lessons learned from SAP EWM implementations. Egor, take it away.
Hi. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. I heard that today we have kind of a big audience here, so I would really be happy if I could reach your expectations. So what we're going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about kind of alarms you can take during some extended warehouse management implementation projects. So what was my idea behind it, why I wanted to talk about this, is that kind of life is changing. Yeah, we have like different view of the world, like you Kabani, Shiva, whatever you call it right now. And world is becoming more reactive day by day. But we kind of still keeping shooting in our foot. There still be the same mistakes all over the projects. Doesn't depend on the geography, line of business, or even sometimes the logical approach to the project. So that's what I want to talk about today. A few words about myself. Here in EPAM, I'm leading digital supply chain management disciplines. For myself, I'm having something like more than 10 years of hands-on experience of implementing different supply chain solutions from SAP, and mostly focused on warehouse management. And yeah, obviously, this is my kind of the favorite part. And today we're going to talk about warehouse management solution and what's the what's the situation you can face during real system implementation. To do this, what we should go through, like this clear vision that ideal processes there doesn't exist. There is no kind of magic pills which you can just use and don't have any mistakes or anything. And I just want to kind of emphasize the mistakes that should not have been made, and maybe share some recipes in terms how can we avoid it. We'll talk a little bit about project planning and management, which is more relevant and crucial to in terms of EWM configuration, customization, integration, user training, and in the end, we would have some questions and answer time. How actually I put it in my head just to structure it. I know like we have different levels of planning. We have strategic planning, we have tactical planning, and we have operational planning. And obviously, as more deeply you go to operational part, the more solution-specific details you have there. So like, for example, talking about the strategic mistakes, I know like lacking of a clear vision of objectives, budget allocation, ignoring like long-term scalability. This is something which is more or less similar for any system implementation project you are facing with. And this is maybe too generic. There's lots of clever things about this in the internet. Even ChatGPT can share something about this. So I don't want to talk about these global things, like, I don't know, everybody should be the team and so on. I want to go really deeply in the details. And to whom this mostly, this would be interesting, of course, for my functional colleagues, for them not to see like all the ways you can mitigate some mistakes during the project, but just in order to understand, like riding the bicycle. I can say that there is a road, there is some kind of bumps and pits in the road, but you would know about this, but only by your experience you would then understand how deep this hole in the road was. And also, this is important. This knowledge is important for project teams, because sometimes the teams who is doing delivery in warehouse management system in the logistics scope, they had some experience in classical implementation, for example, like ERP systems, and there is a really big difference between approaches and between the risks there. And I also want to emphasize these specifics. So what we gonna talk, where the EWM specific actually laying? They laying in a project planning and management that we're gonna talk about, configuration and customization, as I said, integration and user training and adoption. The little bit generic, but still we have to talk about this. This is like the project planning and management. Yeah, I know this could be relevant to easy system, but yeah, we have some EWM specific here. So from my experience, of course, maybe it's more relevant to small business than to the bigger business, but most companies, they turn into automatization when they already suffered from some losses, yes, which actually can lead to some domino effects, some fires everywhere, and they usually have some kind of really ambitious vision how the project should be delivered. I don't know, like before the high season, and these companies also always appear somewhere in October, November, with such vision of the project implementation. And of course, this is not the proper approach. This is more kind of firefighting, firefighting methodology, if we can say so. And that brings not the proper system design, but some kind of proper Frankenstein monster, because which on the like the small road help with something, but in the future we have, it should be some kind of redesign. So I don't know if we will draw some kind of the line from the extreme approach where you have quick solution, but of course incomplete automatization, to system approach with a full description of technological and business processes, proper approach to automatization, like adaptation of documentation. Of course, it's obvious that the better results would be with such approach of automatization when you have the cool head, where you choose the early time, and like kind of obvious idea, please do good things, don't do the bad things. And what else is important here, up to the right moment of automatization is of course the understanding of needness of automatization, because not each company understand why they really need to have the warehouse being automated, what they're looking for, what should be the key performance indicators they're going to measure to understand the successfulness of these projects. It's more, of course, connected to functional requirements. We'll talk about this later, but just to put attention here. And of course, the company which is going to this kind of projects should be ready to this. I mean that the project business processes should be formalized, that the job description should be formalized, and like my favorite one, there's a process. They should not depend on the employees, obviously, because if it's so, that would not bring the good success of the project. If like nobody understands how the process is going on, there is just some kind of a guy on the warehouse, and he's only one who understands what's happening. Functional requirements, of course, this is a crucial thing, that each functional requirement should be obviously connected to each process. Then risks should be estimated. Only after this, the recommendation how could be given, obviously with a connection to the flow of goods. And only after this, we can estimate the target projects. And here we can replace humans in the decision points. That's kind of the proper approach here. I mean that I've seen different situations when companies coming and saying, I don't know, we want to have cross-docking, or we want to have multi-picking, or I don't know, some clever and fancy technologies, which marketing-wise definitely should bring some profit to the company. And then we understand that the logistic flow is a little bit different. So, for example, for the cross-dock, you should have the proper transportation planning. But when you have the cross-dock, when the one car arrives today and another we should bring it for the next customer, for example, arrives in 4 days, you just have this stock being buffered in the zone which you don't want to allocate, and no processes working here. Or for complex merging of the picking, for example, if I also had a situation in the project, there was a requirement to make some complex logic of merging different goods which should be picked to one customer, and then after, even in the some kind of in the middle of discovery phase, we realize that the way they plan everything is too online. So actually there is nothing to merge because we don't have any requirement to be picked in advance. So that's just kind of the simple way I'm just trying to explain here. So all the processes, they should be formalized and they should be really connected to the goods flow, which could be a little bit new to in the comparison with classical, ERP implementation projects, for example, because here the flow of goods leading actually the process. And also this kind of quite deep requirements in terms, we should have less scanning here because it brings more speed. We should confirm quality instead of entering qualities of goods to be picked. This also not that easy requirements to work with, because on one side you have speed, on the other side you have less of control, because if you do not scan anything, everything should be picked. And we right now, and at this point, we are facing the situation that some business consulting, of course, proper business consulting, should have take place in such projects, in terms if we do some process redesign. If we following the previous approach I said, when everything is formalized and we just trying to make some optimization in the decision points, probably that could be done without any business consulting, because some paperless technology or maybe this decision making will definitely bring 20 or 30% of bigger profit to the company, of course, on the optimization of warehousing processes. But if you go further with requirements, we need proper business consulting and proper optimization. If implementation partner is saying something like, guys, there is a big best practices, let's take these practices and put it on your warehouse, that should have some estimation and modeling of the processes which somebody has done before or which should be done. So I'm a big fan of business consulting being involved in the logistics projects. Maybe it's also obvious idea, but I have seen situation when it wasn't involved, and somebody has to pay it afterwards, of course, because of the losses the company can, the money the company can lose in the end. So industry expertise important here, business process modeling, and of course change management, risk management, and all the things. And saying last but not least, leadership, from the customer side, of course. The project manager, the owner of the project, should not be just guy who will go to owner of the company for each question to solve. This is the guy who has a proper ownership, who has proper understanding what can he decide, and that definitely makes the project faster without moving it the timelines on the right. So as I said, proper preparation, proper functional requirements approach, and business consulting. Otherwise, if it doesn't work, we would have some kind of a real-life debugging, which is quite funny, of course, but we always should keep in mind that business can lose money because of this. Now moving to a little bit more closer to the ground, the configuration part. First, the great topic to talk about is the process simplification. Yes, because like excessive customization can definitely lead to duplication of functionality and can definitely increase system complexity. I'm the big fan of using standard SAP functionality wherever is possible. Of course, if it's not, if it corresponds, because if this process is not calling for some kind of competitive advantages, it's better to be as standard as possible, because SAP has millions life of developing, million years of developing this system, and it's actually, I can say, as a guy who was working with this for 10 years, this is pretty robust and pretty cleverly designed. So yeah, it's better whenever it's possible to use the standard SAP functionality. Maybe also obvious idea, but whenever. Yeah, of course, the customization some kind of required. Yeah, if it's, as I said, is a competitive advantage, or maybe some other reasons. But my recommendation is always to link these changes to specific deliverables and evaluate the impact on the process. Just by this, to understand if we really need it or we just making the system more complicated. I also big fan of this new clean core and modular architecture approach which SAP is bringing, when you have the system clean and you take most of complex customization apart to the special platforms. Of course, you should be here kind of, let's say, technology agnostic, yeah, and I don't know, be focused on finding the best solution here, which fits the specific needs, rather than being limited by particular technology. For example, I don't know, the logic of tasks creation, yeah, maybe it's better for it to stay in EWM. For the performance needs, then take it apart to some other systems and being limited by connection and maybe the other systems limitation. So, the third thing, which is quite a clever idea here, is to think about some kind of process simplification, if it's possible, and further complication it in agile way. Yeah, I'm not saying that all warehouse management projects should be agile-ish. That could be. I have seen the projects like this, but my understanding is that Agile Scrum is not a complex methodology, it's more iterative methodology, which is good when you continue to work in the details, but that's not actually the topic of today's meeting. This, agile way can bring to some kind of endless projects with some MVP, which in the end, which doesn't actually satisfy the business. That's sometimes happening. So methodology, I think, should be more as waterfall for at least this MVP, which satisfy everybody as possible. But whatever. What I wanted to say here, that from our experience and from my experience, and I think the experience from the guys who joined here, we really understand that there are some complex customization in extended warehouse management, which definitely needs to be there because it brings some optimization or some better performance on the warehouse. I mean, for example, the queues, because I have seen the projects that we spend great time designing these queues, trying to draw everything on the board and making great and quite a complex solution, how these queues should be grouped, which resource should receive which task, in which order, how the interleaving should work there. And then on the real, after the real go live, we have just one queue for everybody, and it's been manually operated, like saying, like, please take this order, and so on. So approach to such things, I think that's a great idea, that it should be iterative. I don't know, let's make the one queue for inbound and one queue for outbound to separate the resources, and then make it complicated. Because if we do not involve business modeling tools in this experience, the result can struggle from it. Not everything can be, unfortunately, kept in even really clever head. This is the first thing. And the second thing, whatever system is perfectly designed, you always have people here in the end with the terminals who can really not that easy understand of what's happening, and they don't understand the logic. For them, this is a big change. They worked before in separate and different ways. So also and there are lots of things are changing at the same moment. So let's try to make, of course, proper change management required. We're going to talk about this, but let's try to make it from the system perspective already also easier, because on other side we can have some goods which was not delivered, some overflow, and some stuff like this. I mean that the customer will lose money, which we really do not want to have such situation. Prioritizing of the business processes, also the good technique. I mean that what do we have in real life? We have, I don't know, for inbound process, we have some kind of an inbound process, like receiving, I don't know, from the line and then putting this to the storage. And then we have some working with some unconditions or with some breakage, with some stuff like this. And this process can be quite complex because, I don't know, you can have lots of different types on it. And when you're saying to the client, do you have this process of working when something is broken, for example, there is this not the main process. And behind of this, there are beginning to the customer and everybody beginning to bring great ideas how it could be optimized, how it can be automatized also, how the system can solve this situation behind of the, instead of the worker, I don't know, some AI, machine learning or whatever. And this complication in this process, which maybe even happens once a month, really influence on the project timeline, influence on design, influence of the whole system performance, influence on the learning path, of course. So it's definitely great to prioritize process, to understand which of them happening more often and focus more on them. And if you have some really complex process, which is happening once a year, obviously, it's better to keep it out of the system somehow in order not to waste all your resources and all your efforts to this small thing. Yeah. Also, some kind of sequence can be made here. Let's not start in one wave. We can have 2 or 3 waves. Of course, the beginning will be a little bit not as maybe it's expected from the business, but it's also something we can talk about, discuss, and we're waiting all the different options to decide how better to be this here, how to build it. Quality is crucial. Quality should never suffer in the such system which really rely on the performance. Design should be in the future SAP landscape grow in mind, that because if, for example, we have some complex customization, I don't know, in finance system which generates some document for 1 minute, that's okay. Not, of course, not good. It could be optimized, obviously, but for finance team, it's okay. They can wait 1 minute. But if we have 1 minute delay on each warehouse creation task, obviously that would stop warehouse stop at all, and nobody could work. So requirements to implementation to customization is definitely higher than for the classical systems here. I can say this from my experience. Of course, the actual warehouse layout should be taken in account during the EWM configuration. it's always great for clients to bring the implementation team to the warehouse for them to understand how the processes is going, spend some time drawing the good flow on some kind of the board, maybe even to use some business modeling software for that, just for them to understand when everything should be placed, how it's physically happening, where scanning is happening, and what could be issues here, because obviously the client side who is doing this implementation, in most cases for them, that's not this is the first project, so they really do not understand what should be taken in the attention. I don't know, for example, if we are designing some cross-dock zone in front of the gates, and we also have the loading process here, obviously that some goods can be mixed, and if we didn't design proper scanning process here, the mistake can really be quite hard to fix later physically. I mean, as I said, being technology agnostic sometimes is good, because the new decision by SAP, they obviously appears, but I don't know, for example, BTP, this is I like the concept, I like the technology, I really believe that there is a future behind this. But when we're now talking about moving some customization from classic ABAP scope to somewhere to BTP, we always should keep in mind that the technology is quite new. There is not that many people on the market who already have experience here, and the way we design like classical SAP application for everybody is quite clear. We know how deep to debug it, we know how to trace it, we know how to understand what's the cost of the request to the database, and there is not that many specialists for BTP applications who can do automatization here. So we can face the situation that is perfectly work in the test landscape, but when we have the real data, it became struggle from the performance issues and would need some redesign, which firstly would cost something to someone, and also that can reflect on the business continuity, which is always should not be. As I said, the EWM system is quite performance is quite important for this system. So I'm not, of course, no any hard coding should be used. The EWM object-oriented model should be in place during the complex customization. This is more for developers. Of course, they know how to do it better, but maybe sometimes for the functional consultant, if he understands how the process is important, how often this functional would be the client would run, and what will be, and if the performance also is crucial here, it's also good for a WM consultant to look inside to see how it was developed, what are the logic here, what are the objects being generated there. If there is some direct calls to database, just ask developer why he did so. I really believe that in some cases, for some tables which was some not standard way designed, maybe direct calls are possibility, but this is a good question to ask for developer, because maybe he didn't even know that this is important here, and this can affect the whole warehouse performance. Risk mitigation, considering configuration pain points. This is also I cannot unfortunately share the list, because this is everybody has their own, but there are some things in the warehouse or in the WM which standard SAP has and which actually works properly, but in the real life you're facing the situation that something kind of wrong here. I don't know, like for example, one of my favorite ones, which I have seen on one of the projects for 5 of the years, from one client to another client, is like the bulk bins capacity. Because, for example, if it was not estimated properly, you can make then some changes in the system, but if you want the system to recalculate the capacity, you should clear the bin and put everything in. And the report which was made for SAP for this recalculation sometimes doesn't work the way you want to without, for example, without clearing the bin. This is just example, technologically not that important, but what I want to say here, that if we know that this situation can happen and there is a risk behind it, because the guys who will be measuring bin's capacity, they would be doing it the first time, and definitely they would have the mistakes, and when we would then upload all stock, we would have some wrong quantities, and that's what we really doesn't want to. Maybe some extra customization here, how this recalculation can be done online, for example, could be the good idea. Also, I don't know, the stock upload file. Yes, this is a great tool. You can put everything inside and just migrate your warehouse stock to the new system. But the way you feel it is quite complex. The way SAP is saying you that something is wrong, not such obvious to the end user. So maybe some update on this logic sometimes is required to make this situation maybe that it wouldn't harm so much as it usually harms. My favorite one, which could be, I don't know. I think maybe these words should be even drawn somewhere on the wall for every SAP implementation partner, because that's what I have seen in lots of the companies, the situation when everything was perfectly tested on one delivery with one item, with one batch, and everything is perfectly works. And then in the real system, we have different batches, we have different deliveries, and all the cycles which was customly created doesn't work, and we have some inconsistency in the system which would cost definitely more to fix in the real life than we have did it in the test. UI UX is important. Yeah, we can spend some time talking about how SAP is user friendly. It's definitely getting better with the Fiori application and so on. But what I want to say here, I'm more talking about user experience in terms how user is interacting in the system in the most cases, because in the most cases user interacting with the system using handheld RF device, and the screens there, sometimes it's good to adjust them because there is a great framework provided by SAP for, let's not call it simple, but for at least you can do it, and this is quite well-known technology. I mean that the scans should be when the user is scanning, that system will interact with him properly. I don't know, sometimes you can scan instead of handling unit number, you can scan product number, yes, and the system will create handling unit with wrong number, and then the process will stop somewhere after 5 stages. So these things, it's really better to predict, as I said, having the actual processes in mind, and maybe put some extra customization here to mitigate these risks. About migration, great idea, but sometimes we're facing this, that it's great to check the influence of the previous connection after the migration, because there could be some kind of integration flows which somebody forgot to switch off, or this party was not even the part of the project, so they even didn't know that the products extra or the product data which they have been sending to your system, you don't need it anymore, or you need it in the new system. So this is the integration part is crucial here. Authorization, usually, sometimes we are using authorization for the batch users, for the system users. I'm pretty sure that, and even my grandchild will still be using them. But what I want to say here is that the party who can solve it quickly should be available during the go-live implementation, during the go-live, obviously. Integration. Yeah, for everyone, for like the big audience, warehouse management system is always led by ERP system. So ERP system is the most important system here. It brings deliveries to warehouse management system and brings all the master data to warehouse management system. And also warehouse management system sometimes is connected to the line, for example, I know, transportation management system, yard management system, so whatever could be here. And of course, during the go live is stressful for, and system implementation stressful for all the parties here. And it's really great to have the clear picture of the responsibility. So this is the guy, and he should be introduced to the team. He is responsible for integration with PLC, for example, with line. This is the guy. He is responsible with integration with yard management system. Maybe yard management system is not directly connected to EWM. Maybe there is some system in the middle or some middleware. But understanding who is involved here can be crucial, because in some situations, the fast response, the fast understanding what can be fixed here can be really, really important. Using the real data for testing purposes, maybe this is a also good thing to do instead of testing on some kind of not really existing XML files. It's really better to try to build test infrastructure for all of the systems and use this test infrastructure for testing. Firstly, that will increase testing quality, and secondly, that will make it definitely faster, because by using this, you're just pressing some buttons in this test infrastructure, but otherwise you need some special person who's going to create this XML, which can be, or other documents which can be, I don't know, really big and have some internal checks, which would really cost for someone some time. And when we are moving to real infrastructure, to the production infrastructure, some smoke testing is required, of course, just to see that, for example, line is sending requests to the warehouse management system, that the warehouse management system responds. It's always great to do this before the real activity. Hardware. Warehouse management also has the hardware in place. As I said, is connected to, could be connected to, for example, to MFS or to the line. It also has the user also having the handhelds. There is a printing solution. There should be somewhere for labels, for the output documentation. So all the devices, they should be checked, and there should be responsible person for this, who really understand how it's going to be configured and how to align this device to production infrastructure. Also, I put it in the hardware section, and that's something that sometimes we are facing during the go live, is that we have some barcodes for confirmation. I mean, I don't know, the bin barcodes, for example, here, and handling unit barcodes, maybe the door barcodes. And it's great to check if they could be scanned, of course, and it's great to check could they be scanned in the real environment. I mean, aren't they too high? Or if they on the floor wouldn't be the situation, then the forklift will cross it and take it away. So all these details, definitely it's great to keep it in your hand. And for implementation partner, it's always great to have your own RF device if it's possible, because sometimes they are limited on the warehouses. So if the user has having some trouble with some application or whatever, it's not always possible to reproduce it from the from the computer. So it's better to have your own in terms how just for testing purposes on the real environment, on the real device, because the guy who brought to you his RF devices, obviously he's not working, he's not doing anything, just waiting for you to solve the problem. And if we have limited people on the warehouse, they also can reflect on the whole performance. I know this is not possible. It's always a great idea to download some application for barcode reading. Yeah, because when somebody is bringing the barcode to you and saying that doesn't have a proper information, not everyone, I believe these people exist who can read barcodes just from the list, but it's better, of course, to use application just to understand what inside and why it's not working for some reason. Users. Yeah, of course, users, they should be involved. And like the biggest idea here, there is some difference between implementing of, I don't know, FI module and EWM module, because the end users here is quite different. The way people, I don't know, the accountant is working and the way his background could be a little bit different from the warehouse workers. They're not like the blue collar. So approach of training should be a little bit different, maybe more in details. And also these people, they are more oriented, they are more like learning through the doing. Yeah, because to the accountant, for example, you can give him a big document and he will, like, in most cases, he will read it precisely page to page and understand what inside. Unfortunately for the warehouse workers, that doesn't work. That's not the way they're living. That's not the way they're working. That's not what we are actually paying them for. They're more oriented on the process. And that's why some great tools which can be could be introduced to the projects. I don't know, the first one that could be virtual demo, for example, during the education. I don't know, showing some movies, maybe showing some pictures. That would be definitely better than just showing the system interface. I don't know, or showing system interface on one side and pictures or something on the other side. Another great thing which should be, from my point of view, and I always insist of this being the part of the project, this is kind of the day in life operation phase. At least it should be as a part. I mean, this is when you test everything on in real or life environment. So you have, for example, test landscape, and you connect printers, I don't know, Wi-Fi, RF devices to this infrastructure, and try to do something in the corner of the warehouse. Of course, we can use this tool as a part of the demo or whatever, but definitely it should be in the end of user acceptance test, when the guys already know something, when they're already in the context. That's how they really can touch the system. They can really understand that they really have to scan something, that they should look at the screen, that system will tell them afterwards what they're going to do, and that will and also that can be used to to train the go live. I don't know, the way they're going to create incidents. We can already start the collecting issue log, which would be then used as a base for the go live issue logs. So something like that, because there is definitely kind of the learning curve that, I don't know, the formal training, I think, is like maybe 20% or 15% of knowledge. The otherwise is just learning in real environment for them, and that's important. Of course, everyone who gonna be joining the go live, each key user who will be there should be trained, because sometimes, and the key user training should be more like an institute, because these people can change. For example, somebody can be sick. There are situations when, for some reasons, they are afraid of new system which gonna be here in place. We can call it sabotage, and the different reasons can be there behind this, but just this situation this risk also just should be in mind. So as many people we trained, that definitely matter. And also the motivation. The proper change management should be here. That should be clear motivation for each of the parties which is included, which is a part of the warehouse operation. It's not, because for them mostly the project is the stress. So coming to them and saying, hey guys, we need to work hard right now because we're gonna save the project, but what we will gain, you will work more because the efficiency of the warehouse would be bigger and you will have more things to do here. That not also sometimes, that's not motivate everyone, this speech. So proper change management should be here, an explanation why it should be like this. This is a crucial thing. So go live itself. We're just moving to the go live because this is one of the important phases here. Let's talk a little bit about the go live. Firstly, the go live methodology should be clearly determined and with a clear vision. Why should it be done like this? You can do it several ways, like process by process. For example, firstly inbound, then you received everything, you can already start inventory or so on, and then you're moving to outbound. Of course, if you have empty warehouse, this is the best way to start it process by process. Starting from cross-docking or then inbound and outbound and then moving to more complex process. It also can be done on not the full warehouse, so somehow you can have part of the stock be outside of the system, part of the stock inside of the system. And if the process clearly designed, and what's important here, if you can distinguish physically or by label, or if you believe that those labels wouldn't lose, or somehow the stock which is in EWM from the stock which is out of the system, that could be an option. For small warehouses or even for the big warehouses having different buildings. Also, when you have different buildings or different zones, you don't have these troubles with distinguishing different projects one from another. So go live can be performed zone by zone or building by building, like to train on something small, on the frozen goods. It's always nice to train on the frozen goods because you don't want to spend much time in freezer itself, so it motivates everyone to do the process faster and to learn faster. So starting from please don't take it as a recipe, just an idea. So starting with the frozen goods, with some zone, then moving to the whole warehouse, also an option. And day by day, when you have, and this is more the classical way of starting. I think more than 70 projects from my experience started like this, where you just raise the pressure on the warehouse, having not the full amount of goods flow, 10% for one day, then 20%, and then you just increasing it. This is an option, but first thing which should be mitigated here, you cannot make 50% for the first week and 200% for the second week, because that definitely wouldn't work. The change would be quite high, and if there are some bugs which reflect on any project, you just beating yourself. So that's not, you're like beating yourself in your tail. This should be properly planned with some space, how we can raise the pressure in the situation if there is some bugs or some troubles or some issues which reflects on the whole performance. And number 4 is like impact. One day we just changing the system, no way back. Let's just do it. It's like the learning of swimming. I heard some like a Brazil way. You just been thrown into the river and you just try to swim there. That's maybe good in terms of motivating, in terms of motivation, in terms of let's do it not as the marathon, but as a sprint. But of course, always you should remember that on other side you can have you have the business which can lose money, and that money can cost even much more. For one day it can cost even much more than the whole warehouse management implementation. So that should be properly planned, and this logistic plan should be definitely the base for the technical plan, because all parties who is involved in the implementation, they should clearly understand what is the amount of truck we are having today, for example, what is the amount of trucks or whatever we are having tomorrow, what is the amount of what is the exact amount of production we're going to perform, how we close to this numbers, what is the reason why we're not close to the numbers. So logistics plan is the most important thing here, and it's actually definitely most important thing here to take in account. Also, presence of consultants on the shop floor is important. Just to understand what's happening, what is the process, are users doing the same. I mean that, of course, in the proper way, in the classical way of organizing this go live, we have the key users who are responsible for the processes, and all end users goes to them, and they are solving the troubles together. But it's always great to have consultants on the shop floor who at least checks that this process is working, and in the beginning at least, and check that something is wrong. Maybe people scanning something wrongly, or they're not even scanning, or they do not really follow the system guidelines for something. Somebody has to check it and understand why it's happening before it is too late. Of course, no new products should be moved during the go live. We can do it later, or we need to create some special flow if it's required to be, if there should be like this, because new products always can bring something like not master data properly filled, and this master data can be crucial part of EWM processes. So you're receiving something new that doesn't work, nobody understands why it doesn't work, but in the end you understand that it doesn't work because master data doesn't field referring to the requirements which you both as a customer and as an implementation partner both aligned with, but you already lose the time, and maybe there are some troubles with the products which would not be delivered in place. So it's better to not to reach such situation during the go live, or that it should be done. At least somebody should understand that it's happening and coordinate it properly. One of my first thing is the stock count. I already said that tools which SAP provide for it, not that user friendly as we wish them to be. Yeah, let's say so. So this is an Excel file with lots of information which should be filled there. Yeah, sometimes if you put dot not in the proper place for the quantity, for example, that you have like multiplied quantities, you should even sometimes have your proper Windows settings to be in place to have the proper dots in the proper places. There's lots of details there. Everybody who at least did it more than one time understand this. But what I want to say here, yeah, maybe that's not the easiest tool, but it's a great tool. It works. Sometimes maybe we can add some customization here, because the way it answer when something is wrong, not that obvious for the end user, but whatever, we can always put consultants right in front of him who will debug this and understand what's really happening. But it's better to mitigate the situation. So how we can mitigate it? We should properly plan stock counting and stock upload, and really understand that the full pallets counting may be easy, but when you have the mix zone, that could, for example, take more few times more than counting all other full pallets, for example, because the amount of data, some kind of lost labels, or some mixture the way that it shouldn't be, or even understanding that the previous design doesn't really correspond on what you have here on the real warehouse, sometimes happening. So it's better at least test stock count, not only on the full pallet, but on the mixed pallets if you also have it, and be sure that you have enough time on counting them. That's option number one. And option number two, you can align on the, at least try to think in advance what would be if we wouldn't have time to count all of them. Maybe it's possible to take it out of the system. Maybe it's possible to upload it from ERP system to one bin, and then, I don't know, using inventory, just put it in order. Some plan B should be done for this in advance, because on some warehouses I have seen the big troubles with this stock counting. It could be kind of unestimated. Inventory counting should be done before the go live, and it should be full wall-to-wall inventory counting, just because to align the system quantities, the warehouse quantities with inventory system quantity. Because if you will do inventory, if the first kind of inventory will be after the stock upload, you can receive some difference here, and you would not definitely understand what is the difference behind this. You didn't count anything, you didn't upload anything properly, or this is just some kind of a stock differentiation which just exists on the warehouse. Communication crucial, of course. I really like, of course, we should have the proper systems for issue log, and the responsible person should be there, and I don't know, all the date of and the priorities should be there, and everybody should know how at least check this document and to understand what inside. Now we have great ways of communication in WhatsApp. I don't know, you can call to each other when something is wrong. Please be together with the customer, with the client, because communication is crucial. Understanding what's happening in the warehouse really important, in terms not to if there is some bad situation, to understand it easily in the beginning. My vision, and this is also something to discuss, but 10 hours shift, a 12 hours shift, maybe sometimes is more preferable than 8 hours, because you have less of handovers, you can do more, solve more issues for implementation team, solve more issues during this. And if we have the proper amount of the team, I know people can have the proper rest during this, but I know 12 hours, it looks like it's better, because even if 8 hours is planned, nobody during the go live from implementation team will just close the laptop and say, my shift is over, please do whatever you want. Everybody is staying for longer to solve everything, to answer to the warehouse workers, for example, because people mostly involved in this. They've been doing this for previous year, and this is the result. So let's keep it 12 hours. That's what I think is better, to more clear picture and understanding of utilization of the resources. Handover, proper need and understanding of logistics plan, as I said, and all the documents, ERP documents, they should be closed. They should not be opened before the go live, just in order not to create some situations which we doesn't expect. So the system should be as clear, as fresh as it's actually possible. What's also important about the communication is that we have the new system in place, and user sometimes doesn't understand if it's the system troubles, is it the system problem, or they're doing something wrong. And that's why sometimes it's good to ask the consultant. What I really also like to do is to, when this is a support team logging issues, because support team mostly can understand what's happening. Is it a real system issue, or somebody, or this is a lack of theory of knowledge of the system, or something like this. So everybody should be fully available. There should be enough of key users there. It's better to have at least 2 key users in the one area, because they definitely have their own things to do, and they can be more in operational, like trying to solve the issues what's happening, instead of helping with testing or talking with other key users. So really it's better to have more than one user involved here. Plan B, main idea of everything we are doing here, I hope everybody understands this, is to help business continue. Yeah, the business continuity is a key, and the plan B should exist. I have heard from some project, some ideas that creating plan B means that we already think that everything would not be as successful as it should be, and it's kind of the weak position. Please, I even think it sounds a little bit unprofessional. Please don't do this. Plan B should be, and it should be tested, it should be checked, and all the situation which can go wrong, it should be predicted as it's possible. The great thing behind this is that if something is going wrong and we need some extra resources here, that quality resources, they have their commitments. They are not just waiting for something to be happen. So at least this is a great idea somehow in advance to say the consultants, please be ready. We would need your help for some external debugging or some stuff like this, or maybe some extra people to be involved, and of course enjoy the go live. Yeah, it's better to say them in advance. Maybe we wouldn't reach them. Maybe we will even there's some extra costs will be there for them to be like in the standby mode. But it's definitely better than to reach them when they have some other commitments. And there are different levels of the plan B. The worst one, or is the rollback, for example. But there we can do it the way, as I said, having the same approach as the goal starting approach, as I said before. We can do it partly for the different zones. We can take some processes out of the system because we understand that, for example, we have some really complex process which was not a part of SAP standard. I don't know, some kind of non-existing labels or some stuff like this, and we really understand that maybe that wouldn't work the way we wanted, because there are too much of changes between the system and between maybe the way they worked before. Let's see what we're gonna do if that wouldn't run perfectly. How can we reduce the pressure, or how we take it out of the system? I don't know, and maybe try it one more time with a different amount of system pressure. And of course, for each party, the decision why we decided to go to plan B or not should be always clear. Because in advance, we should align some metrics, some understanding in which business situation we're gonna do, where we're gonna move. That's a big job which should be done. And as we can say, sometimes we are thinking that it would never happen, but it's better to have it in the situation. If it would happen, then of course not to have it. So detailed preparation, clear communication, and well-defined rollback strategy definitely is crucial. So what we can now for a conclusion? Yeah, a little bit went out of the time, but there was really something I wanted to bring you here. So yeah, something would definitely happen the way we didn't expect. Yeah, but everything can be resolved. Proper mitigation, proper plan B, and proper understanding what could be done wrong, what could go wrong. Yeah, this is important. Business continuity, really important. So logistics plan, let's look at logistics plan. If you understand that we don't satisfy the logistics plan, let's think about plan B, but the way we wouldn't harm business. Because if we go to the plan B without harming business, just saying, guys, we understand that this is not working for some reason, I don't know, the system bugs or users not ready for that or whatever, or we didn't expect, I don't know, this flow to be here in the process, for example, but we decided to roll back, continue the business, and we will then go return back. It's definitely better than when business coming and saying, guys, we are losing money, get out of here with your system, we don't need it anymore. And having all of this in the mind, of course, the implementation partner should be chosen wisely. Experience in real implementation of such system is important. Even the people who did it by their hands are really important, because, as I said, it's sometimes differ from the, let's say, classical ERP or MMSD implementation. And do we have some time for question and answer?
Yeah, Egor, thank you so much for this amazing and informative talk. And let's get down to our questions right away. What do we have? Question 1, could you share any particular experiences or insights from your years of implementing EWM that have significantly shaped your current practices?
I hope that actually I did it for the previous hour, but what I can say here is, like, you never learn without some practical skills. As I said, you will never learn to ride bicycle without actually riding bicycle. You would know everything about aerodynamics, about the way the different roads you can see, but only by doing it, you will learn it. And what I mean by that, I mean that the real challenges and the real thing when you like getting out of your comfort zone, they happening during the last phases of implementation, mostly during the go live. So mostly solving what lots of clever people who didn't expect this to be happen, what suddenly happened, that will definitely bring how it says this, significantly shape your experience and your understanding of the project delivery.
Right, got it. Thank you. I think we've got another one. How can we proactively identify potential pitfalls during the EWM implementation process?
Try to look at everything I said, and of course not use it as a magic pill, just to understand the logic behind this. So when you are going out of the standard system, there would be pitfall here, 100%. If you do not understand the process flow and you do not understand where these requirements came from, you would definitely have the trouble here. If you think, oh, there is some logistic plan, but I don't know what is the logistic plan behind this. I'm just doing my job. I'm just fixing bugs and something happening there in the war room. That would definitely end that somebody will come to you and say, guy, you're doing something wrong. Please put your attention in more important things. So yeah, unfortunately, only practice, and I don't know. I think it's possible to Google something like this, not for EWM, I really didn't find, but for other let's say, logistics projects, supply chain management disciplines, they're mostly similar. So that just can bring you some overview, but yeah, of course, real practice is crucial.
Right, thank you. I think we still have one question left, but please let me take a second while I remind you about our socials. Join our community on our social networks, Facebook, Telegram, LinkedIn, and of course the We Are community platform. And please use the link in the chat. And we are ready for our next question, which is it beneficial to implement bypass flows in warehouses to prevent operational disruptions caused by poor master data, or does this approach risk encouraging users to neglect proper data maintenance?
If we see that that's kind of the simple answer to this. If we see that, if we understand that the customer is losing money or is gonna lose money, of course, we should do whatever is possible. Bypass flow, I don't know, try to put something out of the system. Of course, how this reflect on the user motivation, like, I don't know, it's okay with data maintenance, I understand this, or for example, the end users, like they think, oh, nothing works, these guys just don't doing this job. That could happen, of course, and the proper explanation why it's happening, the proper involvement of everyone can solve the situation. But of course, if something going wrong and you trying to solve it, just, I don't know, in real life and real situation, of course, the team sometimes can be demotivated. Yeah, and this is mostly the job of the good project manager to catch the situation, to catch this risk, and to finally work with users, explaining them that, guys, please do your job.
Right, got it. And I think we still have one more question. Do we?
Anyway, if it wouldn't appear soon, I'm open to answer your questions offline. Of course, please, I don't know, reach me. Is there an opportunity to reach me somehow?
Right then, so yeah, if we have no questions left, then we thank our speaker, Egor. Thank you for your insightful talk. I believe we all got quite a lot out of it, and it's pretty cool how you make all your points so like easy to grasp. So thank you for putting in the work and making this session super useful. Massive thank you to you. And a quick reminder before we wrap things up, today's webinar recording will be available on our YouTube channel. You'll get the link a little later via email. Colleagues, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you again sometime down the line.
Thank you.